Okay, so now I have, oh, sorry, talk about crazy hair. So now I have both ready to be together, just a straight stitch down. Okay, so this is the fabric I'm deciding to do on the main inside, and it's, since the circumference of my head was 22 inches, and as I mentioned, whatever your circumference of your head is, subtract 8 inches that I'm going to use for the elastic, and that would give me 14. So I'm going to do it 14 inches long, and then the thickness I'm going to do, I believe I'm going to go to about a 3.5. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut that next. And I apologize, you guys. I know that this angle is not the best, but until I get the GGI Osmo set up, I'm going to use this. And also, I'm only going to need one strip of this fabric. I'm not using multiple, so this will be the only time I'm cutting this fabric because it's the main inside piece. Okay, so quick update. I'm deciding to cut it 4 inches wide. I'm just remembering how thin the fabric is, and so I want to give myself more than enough space. But if you don't have very thin fabric and it's more thick, you can probably do it a little thinner, because what's going to make it thicker and wider is going to be the extra fabric you're adding on both ends at the end. So okay, and so my contrasting fabric to this is going to be the white, and I am going to cut it basically the 2.5, so 2.5s by 14, and then I'm going to go iron it and add the fusible to it. Okay, so I have my first 2 strips done, and that will be the adding to the edge of this. So essentially, obviously those will be folded in half, but it will be like this, right? And then what I am going to do is now have to cut a bit more of this for the elastic casing, which will be basically, I'm going to do about 2.5 by the 13. Okay, and these are the other 2 fabrics and interfacing. The one on the top 2 is going to be the binding for the outside of the scrunchie. So I cut it in one piece because I'm going to iron it and add on the fusible fleece, and then it should be more flat, and then I'm going to even it out and cut it for the bias tape. Then I'm going to fold it in half and iron that again. The bottom 2 pieces is going to be for the scrunchie part, the elastic. So I cut that by the 3 by 13, and that I'm going to sew right sides together like a scrunchie and then turn it inside out and add in the 8-inch elastic. So sorry for the light, I'm trying to do the lighting, but I'll cut 8 inches of the elastic, and then that's pretty much all the pieces you'll need. Okay, so I'm now at this point. I cut my 8-inch elastic. This is going to be the casing for the elastic, so I already added in the fusible fleece to all of the pieces that need it. Again, depending on your fabric, you don't need to use fusible fleece, but my cotton is very thin. And I'm going to sew this right sides together, pull it inside out, and add in the elastic so I can see it on both ends. This is going to be the binding piece, so I'm actually going to trim this and cut it in half, and then with those 2 pieces, they should be about 1.25 inch thick, and I'm going to fold those right sides together to be the binding for both sides of the scrunchie. This is the main part of the scrunchie. I did the fusible fleece on one side, which is the wrong side, and the other side I did not do fusible fleece because, and it's a little slightly wider, and I did that intentionally because I'm going to be sandwiching these together, but I'll talk you through that after. So I just put the fusible fleece on one side. Also, the reason why I am adding the fusible fleece for this fabric is because I want it to lay flat. I do not want it to wrinkle. I do not want it to crease. So though you may not need it for the piece that's for the scrunchie, I would suggest, if you're using like basic cotton, anything other than canvas, because I've done this scrunchie with canvas in the video, I'm sorry, in an earlier video where I show you that I made one before. This one is cotton, and the same thing would apply if you're doing knits. So I am going to continue to use fusible fleece lightweight in order to keep it structured. Okay, so I am now going to trim them all up to the size, because once I ironed it, they kind of laid more flat. And now I'm going to also cut this in half and make sure it's trimmed up. Then I will show you the next step. Okay, so part of this pattern process is I get to see what I'm thinking. And so, like I said, I'm using a very thin fabric. If you can see, it's like super thin. It is cotton, it's not silk, but nonetheless, it's very thin. So because I put the interfacing on most of these, I think I'm going to add another option for interfacing on the other part of the main headband, because I want it to be sturdy. So now I'm going to go add that on. Then I'm going to fold. I already cut the bindings in half. This was one piece before. I cut it right down the middle. I trimmed it up so it's the same size. And then I'm going to iron it wrong sides together so it's closed in like a sandwich. Okay, and this is the scrunchie piece, which I'm going to leave as is. I will be sewing that like just down the right sides together and then turning it inside out and then adding in the elastic. So let me do those other two pieces now. Okay, so I added the extra interfacing. I have ironed these bias tapes. So what I'm gonna do is sew these strips right on each side with the opening on this. No. Yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna sew it with the right sides touching, but the opening at the edge of this. So same thing on this side. The opening is going to face on this side. And what I'm gonna do is sew along that side and sew along this side, okay? Once I do that step, I am going to take this and put this down with this right side together right on top and go back and follow the same lines I just stitched on top of that. So I'll show you that in a minute. I'm gonna do the elastic casing. So I'm gonna sew this direction all the way down and turn it inside out and add in the elastic. Okay, so at this step, I do find that it's going to be helpful to use your clips to hold the bias pieces to the main fabric, because it could shift a little and I really want to get like as straight of a line, because once I sew this on and then I sandwich the other main piece, I am going to turn it right side out and I'm going to iron it down and press it. So with that being said, I don't plan on top stitching, but it will depend on how well I can iron it down and press down the fabric and the fusible fleece. Okay, so I've taken one main side of the fabric, I'm taking the two binding pieces, and I'm taking the opening to the edge here, and I'm going to clip it. So I want it lined up as good as possible. And it's okay if the binding piece is a little bit longer. Actually, that would be perfect. And add your clips. So it is lined up, and now you sew along both sides. One thing I will note is that I sew at a 1.2, for this fabric, I'm sewing at a 1.2 millimeter, I'm sorry, 1.2 stitch length, because I want the seam to not rip. I want it to be very secure, so I'm tightening it up. And because this fabric is lightweight and I added the fusible fleece, it will work well. I know sometimes when you go too tight on thicker fabric, it doesn't work, so that may not work for you. If you already have fabric that's quite thick, it should be fine. So I wanted to mention that you kind of have to play with your stitch length. I just find that I tend to do this anyways with most scrunchies, or like my little projects that have like really tight small corners that I know I have to flip. I typically go a very tight stitch length if I can. I'm not sure if you guys do the same or if there's another option, because I have thought about doing serging on it to really hold it, but serging, it's gonna be, it will take too much of, eat up too much of the fabric, and I don't want that, right? I want to use as much fabric, since this is a memory items that I'm making with my mom's clothing. So I wanted to mention that. Hopefully it's a tip for you if you haven't tried shortening your stitch length. And then you can go very closely, very slowly, and it should work out really well. Now we're on the other side, and I do back stitch in the beginning and the end. And you can stop and adjust because of the opening. Okay, and do not trim at this point. There's no point in trimming because, sorry, gosh, I'm gonna get better at this. Okay, there is no point in trimming at this point because I've sewed along this. And what I'm now gonna do, still with the process of my other side of the fabric. Sorry, this is my light. I should put it here for you guys. You gotta do what you gotta do. Use your other side of the headband, the main piece, and you are going to put it on right side facing up, okay? Then you're gonna get this piece and you are going to line it up against that. You can pick a corner if you like, whatnot, it doesn't matter. But I think at this point, what I am gonna do actually is trim off one side of this so that I could be sure to catch the fusible interfacing on here, because I want to line it up against the side that has fusible interfacing so that it has a really good stitch and tight amount of fabric with that layer to catch. So I trimmed off one side. The other side you won't need, but as long as one side's trimmed down, that's the side I'm gonna line up the other piece of the fabric to. So I'll go finish that now. So this is the other side of the main part of the scrunchie. I already put it with the trimming of the excess there. So now I'm just gonna turn it around right side up now. And I'm going to take the piece I just sewed along with the binding, and I'm going to turn it also right side down onto the current fabric. I'm going to take pins first on this side, and I'm just going to sew along the same stitch. I'm going to follow that stitch all the way down. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Then I'm going to trim it before I flip it right side out. The process of making these memory items, like I said, is just, it's a process of, I think, beautiful. Like, I love the process of doing it to turn it into something that multiple family members can enjoy. I think it's still something that's makes it feel real, that reminds me that she's not here. Not that I really like forget, because there's many times where I remember, but because I love sewing so much, it has still just been a beautiful process of doing something I love with her, doing something I love in memory of her. And I can see how it touches on those wounds for me. But I'm so happy that I'm doing it. And so if you have lost any loved one and have held on to their items, I mean, of course, you know, everyone can connect and handle things differently. And maybe you can't make it for yourself out of their items. And I think that's why it's beautiful that companies are out there that actually make those memory items. And I know not all the time it's due to someone passing. It could be just like, you know, someone graduated college and you just had a baby, or remember a special event, or all your favorite t-shirts, you know, or like in my case, I used my husband's old camis from when he first entered the military, and he had so, like, I'm talking about, he's been in, I believe it's like 24, 25 years. And he literally had tubs and tubs of his uniforms, and he was a prior enlisted. And I remember that being my very first quilt was intimidating, especially because dissecting, like repurposing clothes is not always easy, especially like camis. They're extremely thick. They're a lot like a canvas. But I remember getting through that and feeling so accomplished. And when I make this, there is those emotions that stir up, but I also at the end, like for me, I feel so close to her, so happy that I'm able to honor her items in this way. And I'm also so glad that I'm not ignoring the emotions around losing her. And I want to keep her alive, not just in memory, but in her presence through these items. Like, I know when I make this and I wear that scrunchie, I will never forget her. I will wear it with that full heart and full thought of her. And so I know even if I don't wear her items, doesn't mean I'm forgetting her. It doesn't mean I don't. But for me, it's just an extra blessing that I get to have that, and I get to do that, because it could have been that I didn't have anything of hers tangibly. And there's a whole long story of that. Like my family and I do not have her. I say my family, and yeah, my brother, my aunts, my nana, we don't have her ashes. We didn't get her fingerprints because there was an option to get her fingerprints where we could use it for bookmarks and jewelry. And we ordered it, and we just were never handed them over. And that's something that still I wish I had, but you know, I have what I have, and I'm happy that I have this. I'm just sharing this because I'm sure not everyone's going through grief, but I know at some point grief strikes us all, and we're left with items, we're left with things, or we want things from our loved ones, whether it's to hold a sweater, smell it. You know, my mom was a very type A, very clean, very neat, very organized. She liked very quality things. Even though she was in cancer, she took very good care of herself and things. So some items, obviously, I keep in whole. I wear it, and it's been fine. Some things I repurpose because I find beauty in that as well. So it's hard making the selection too. Like, it's been a process, and I'm sure it's not easy for others too to decide what to use, what not to use, how to use it. And so I am making, like I said, the flat lay memory bear. I already created the pattern myself. So the thing I'm also challenging myself on this is not using a pattern from anyone else. Actually, for this, I haven't seen any patterns out there like the one that I'm doing exactly. However, I did kind of combine some ideas, and I did make a headband like this, I said before, but this was with canvas and just on top of a headband, which I do plan to make for my mom out of her other fabric next, which I think is going to be like just so beautiful. And my mom really loved like the deep burgundy colors, and so I'm really excited. Plus, she was kind of into paisley, and this kind of gives like the paisley vibes. My mom really loved paisley. It was actually one of my least favorite. It's always been one of my least favorite, but I know my mom was like a paisley lover, and it's kind of funny to reminisce on that and think of that. And now, you know, wearing it in honor of her, regardless if I may love the pattern, the love and connection I have for my mom, I will like absolutely just appreciate it so much in a different way. Okay, so enough sharing. I've cried my tears. I have done this plenty of times, and I'm sure when it's done, it'll be present there as well. So now I'm just going to stitch along that side where I had already done the stitch on one side up against the edge of the other fabric, which is a little bigger, a little bigger. And I'm going to do that next. So yeah. At this point, you can check it and make sure that you caught all layers, especially the one you just sewed on. So that is looking good. Then you're gonna do it to the other side. So you basically just fold it back down. You don't need to necessarily clip the side, but you're just gonna go along the same stitch that you did on the other side, and then we're gonna trim it off. So I'll do that now. So the other side is done. Now I'm going to trim it. on the outside. On the both sides, sorry, on both sides. So I'm gonna cut it. At this point too, you can also trim the ends like this end, because you know there will be a little bit extra. You don't have to trim too much, but just a bit. Like I could see a little overlap, and that's pretty normal. I think for me too, because I'm using thinner fabric that does have a little bit of stretch, it'll definitely happen. If you see any major loose threads, feel free to snip it. You don't have to get super close. Okay, but that's done. I will turn this right side out in a minute, but I'm gonna take my piece for my elastic. Where's my elastic? For my elastic, and sew this piece right sides together, just a straight stitch down. Sorry guys. So that's all I'm gonna do next is sew that down. Okay, so now I have, oh, sorry, talk about crazy hair. So now I have both of these strips done. I'm going to trim off this one now, and I just trim it so that it's not too bulky at the edge, because also adding that fusible fleece makes it a little stiffer, but I find it doesn't, I mean, I feel like it's really needed in this, for this fabric. Plus, because it's not only is it thin, this fabric's sort of like sheer and see-through. So that's another reason why I do that. So I'm trimming off the ends so that when I add the elastic, it's ready to be when I add onto the elastic, I'll be able to hold it at both ends and be ready to sew it in. I'm also going to grab the logo for label I made for my mom. Gonna add this into there. So that is another thing I'm going to do. And it has her name and memory verse still, and I did it in the purple, and I will show you how I insert that in a minute. But I'm gonna now turn these right side out. For this one, I just do it gently by hand. It would totally work because it's a pretty big opening. For the other, the thinner tube, I use like a tube turner, or you can use a safety pin to turn it. Once I turn it, I will add the elastic to the scrunchie one, but I'm going to take the main pieces now, the binding and the main part of the scrunchie, over to the sewing machine and press it really good. It needs a really good press to really give it like that flat, I mean, obviously you could still move it, right? But just more of like that flat structured look is what I'm going for in this case. I say a lot again, but it's so that it looks more structured. So I'm super excited. It's already looking absolutely beautiful. It's, yeah, so I think I'm gonna, this is so beautiful. So I think I made it a little bit wider. Yeah, quite a bit wider, it looks like. So that's okay though, because it doesn't need to not be wide. I'm gonna see. Yeah. I might end up folding that in again, because I could fold this in again on the top, and they call it stitch in the ditch. I could try that, but we'll see how it looks with this folded down. I'm going to pretend to add the elastic before I actually do. So let me go turn the tube, let me go iron this down, and I'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead and I pressed it and it came out perfect. I feel like it's going to work quite well. It's meant to be wider, obviously, but this is kind of a preliminary. Obviously, with the pattern I'm doing, you could even shorten the inner, like you can make it smaller. Sorry guys, my light turned off. Okay, let me try to fix that. Of course, I'm having all kinds of lighting issues. So that part is done. I am now going to thread the other, basically the elastic through this with my bodkin, which is my favorite tool to use for scrunchies or getting elastic through small places. It holds on to it. It doesn't unclip while you're doing it. You don't have to shimmy a safety pin through it. So I like this a lot. Simply clip it on one end, take the other end, and scrunch it through. You want to make sure you're obviously holding the end. As you're bringing it through, you just push this side through, and now this side is exposed. You can now bring out the elastic, and you'll want 2 clips at this stage. This just holds these 2 pieces together. So I will put a piece of that here, and then a piece of this over here to that side. Okay. The next step is pretty easy. You just decide at this point, you can do a top stitch if you want. That may make it a bit more sturdy. I might end up doing that. Then what you're gonna do is basically scrunch these in. You pick a side that's gonna be your front, because they're basically identical. So for me, I'm gonna pick this side. This is gonna be my wrong side, right? So my wrong side is this side, let's say. So I'm going to put the wrong side facing up. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm sewing it against this edge. So your right side's gonna be facing up. So my right side's gonna be facing up, which is gonna be this side. So right side facing up, the one you want to be your main heading. You're gonna take the right side facing up, you're gonna take a piece of the elastic, stick it over the edge, and put it in here. And this is kind of why I did not add the interfacing all the way to the end at this point, because I wanted to not be so bulky here at the end, right? So this end's gonna go like this. I'm gonna also at this point add in the label. So it's gonna look like this without the label. And I'm gonna sew across this, all the layers together. And you can kind of scrunch it together because it's gonna be fine how you do it. So you could do it this way. Trying to think. So if I did it this way, then I turned it right side out, that would be fine too. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna line them up carefully. You can overlap the end of it if you'd like. I'm gonna add in the label of my mom's name and her favorite Bible verse. So I'm gonna do that this way. I'm gonna do this way. It's a little tricky because I do not want to not catch my mom's label. So I'm gonna pull that out just a teeny bit, and then I'm gonna sew very closely onto there. For this, because it's pretty thick, I think I'm gonna do a 2-inch stitch length, and I'm gonna go back and forth like 3 or 4 times. Okay, so I stitched along one side. I haven't trimmed it yet because I want to make sure the label looks good. It makes me a little nervous to think if I messed up, Oh, I caught it. Okay, good. So luckily I was able to check. I think that makes me more nervous is that I wouldn't have caught our label. So now I'm going to go over it a few more times. This isn't like a normal headband that I've made a lot. So it's one that I made like years ago. Well, I made this one years ago. So this one's sort of a new style. So I'm going to go up and down a few more times. Then I'm going to do the other side, which will be much easier because I'm just literally taking the edge of this again, putting it here, and then sandwiching it on top like so. I'll show you because I'm probably just going to do that pretty quickly. Just like that. And I'm going to go about half, maybe a quarter of an inch, and go back and forth several times. But first I'm going to finish this side. Okay, I've done both ends now. I already trimmed one side. I'm going to trim the other, and then we're going to flip it. So sewing can get a little messy. Okay, so I am back to the very end of it now, and now I'm going to flip it right side out. So I just basically tuck in that piece, and I tuck in the other side piece. I feel like I did it wrong. Did I do it wrong? No. Okay, that's fine. Moment of truth. Here is her label again. I still just love seeing this. And then, I don't know if you guys can see it. And then the back has her favorite Bible verse. And the scrunchie piece looks great. The logo is hidden underneath. It is pretty firm. So I'm gonna try it on now. Oh, I have a big head. I think the way I put it on was funny. I don't think you guys can fully see. I don't know why. Why is it? Sorry guys, I'm trying to make sure you get a better angle. Okay, so it does give the look of a very full like bandana look, which is what I was hoping for. I think what I will do in the next one is probably make the inner fabric smaller. Instead of 3.5, I think I'm gonna do like maybe 2.5. Yeah, so it's very beautiful. I do love it. I'm really happy that I made it. At the same time, I know, sorry guys, there's another light. Okay, at the same time, I feel like I worked out my kinks. But I still know this will be very loved and appreciated. The next one, I could also open it back up and fold this binding over just a tad bit like this. So it'll bring it in a little bit smaller. I think I'm gonna do that because I can't really take in the inside fabric. I'm trying to think, because I guess if I do, I could just re-add the elastic and add more elastic to it as an option. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should I make it thinner? Is this a little too wide? Let me know. I might play with it and try to adjust it. I just recorded the whole video in slow motion. I hope this isn't I hope it, I don't know if I recorded the other ones in slow motion. Oh my goodness. But this is it finished. It looks beautiful. So this is the scrunchy two-tone headband in memory of my mom. So right here is the Bible verse. Yeah. And then right here is her name. And I'm going to try to quickly make one more scrunchie without doing, I'm sorry, one more headband without doing it as a scrunchie. I'm going to do it as a headband, and I'm going to add some stuff along the edge, and I'm going to do it more like this style, but I just need to find my satin headbands to add that in. And I think I'm going to stick my my mom's label right here. I'm going to try that. But I really love this. I've cried some tears. I've tried this on. I think I'll add that clip next. I think as soon as I saw it, I had to try it on. But yeah, it's so pretty. I know I've shared about the journey of losing my mom to breast cancer and how tough grief has been for the kids and I. And, you know, one of the purpose of starting the handmade business was that I was going to start also repurposing my mom's old clothes, and I've already done a video on repurposing my mom's clothing for making in memory of scrunchie and labels. And basically it was really hard to get through, very emotional. It was a challenge. In the end, I love the outcome. I've already handed it out to some family members, and we all shed some tears. And I now made the headband for my grandmother, and I'm in love with it. It has also her label on it, with the memory verse and her name. And I feel that this is going to be a gift to my Nana, which is my mom's mom, and I know she's going to wear it with so much love. This is my first time making a headband scrunchie like this, and so I will be putting up a video of how I made this, and then I made some tweaks to share it with you guys. So if you want to make a headband like this, or if you want to check out the memory scrunchie, I already have a pattern up for that. But what I will say is the process of making these has been a beautiful, heartfelt experience. So if you're somebody who's going through grief or wants to encapsulate like a memory, or for example, even you could do this with your children's clothes. I know a lot of people make bears, but I feel like making like accessories like a scrunchie or a headband, or even like a bag, like a zipper pouch or something like that, would be something very used. And so I feel like there's so much beauty in this, and I'm so happy that I made it. I'm so happy that I'm recording the journey of making it, because although I've shed a few tears, and although I probably share a lot, I think it's been so healing. And I have shared in the past that I've also done like video journaling. I just find it a lot easier as a mom of 3 is to just talk it out. And it's helped me be more present, but also it's helped me refer back to and connect with that emotion again. Sometimes I feel like I forgot, like I feel this emotion, but I don't know how to release it. I don't know how to share, like how to bring it to the surface. And sometimes when I rewatch those videos or me making this, and I could look back on it and say, I remember that period. I remember feeling that. And I know it's going to be helpful. At least it's helpful for me, but also, you know, it's your truth. It's what you've been through. But I wanted to say I made this. I'm super happy with it. I handmade the labels as well. So if you want to see my scrunchies, this will be up by the end of this week. I'll have the full video up of this because I'm still making the pattern. I'm going to make one more of these. And so I just wanted to share that.
guys, let me just share this. I needed to check in emotionally, because when I made the scrunchies, I had this grief come up and this sadness, and I've completed the scrunchie now, and I've had some of those emotions come up, and they're tough, you know. It feels like, just like, I'm glad I'm crying, you know, because I feel like we need to not be afraid to show emotion. And for me, like, sewing has always been like a thing that I love. It has always been therapeutic for me. I guess it's only natural for me to want to sew things out of my mom's stuff and repurpose things into like beautiful items for my family, for myself, for my kids. And, you know, and it's normal to go through this. And I feel like it allows me to release these emotions. It allows me to be present and not ignore the feelings that I'm having. And so I hope for anyone going through grief and repurposing anything, if they are doing it themselves, I feel like it helps me connect with those emotions by doing this art thing. Like, I could be sewing something totally different, and it's fun and it's fine, and it's coming up, like, we're closer to the year mark since my mom passed away, and I still find that so hard to believe, and so, like, so sad, you know, because I obviously still miss her. I know that that will never end. I know that some moments are going to be harder than others, but I love it. And I think that's what makes my tears come up more, is that, like, I made up this pattern by myself in honor of my mom. I wish I wasn't making it. I wish I wasn't in this situation to make this. But I also know, like, I'm happy that I get to. I'm happy that I have all her stuff, because the way things turned out at the end, I could have easily not got all her stuff. I mean, I am her only daughter, other than, you know, her in-law daughters, which I love them too, and my nieces, and we all like split stuff, but I got a lot of her stuff, so I'm just really happy for that, because that almost couldn't have happened, because I had to be able to get that from at the time, my stepdad, who had them all, and I was able to get them. So I feel like I'm so grateful for that. And having these tears are just, I'm thankful that I'm able to connect emotionally. I'm thankful that I'm able to make things. I'm happy to do it and share it with my family. So I just wanted to check in and say the emotions are obviously still there. The grief, the pain, the love. I know they say grief lives only where love was, right? Where love lived. So, I couldn't, of course. So this is going to be for my Nana, my mom's mom, and I'm super happy. Okay, since I already had the fabric cut out and the binding and the pieces I needed with the fusible fleece already done, I did another scrunchie. So for this one, I am going to use my satin suede headband that I usually put charms on these. I'm gonna lay this on top with hot glue. So you can use any kind of glue. I've done hot glue before on this one, and it stayed on. But you could also use, like, you can also do it like where you actually make a casing inside to put it in the middle, like, or to fit this. But
didn't want to do that. So I already had it like this. I didn't want to make it more complicated. And my other headband has worked out great. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, scratch that. I'm using fabric glue. So I'm going to go over, try to use this instead. And I think it'll work better than the crafting glue that I have, because this is fabric anyways. And then, yeah, you want to like pull it, keep it center. And I'm just gonna pull, and then I'm gonna tug this in and tug this in, and then do my little piece at the end after. So there's that side. So I'm going to clip it so that it holds for a minute. And then I'm gonna do the other side. So I'm just gonna do the same thing. Kind of starting where I left off last time. I'm adding a pretty okay amount, not a ton. It comes out very lightly. Like, this tube has lasted me like a year so far. And I've been using it a lot for the things that I make. So you do that side. I'll add a little more so I can bend in this corner and pull it. So I can bend in the other corner and fold it, and then I'm going to clip it. Okay, so both of them have little ends peeking out, but that's okay because I'm going to wrap those and glue it. So this I did not add glue to the ending of it, but I think I want to fold it in anyways a little bit more. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little glue. And I just use the Beacon fabric glue. It's called Fabric Tack. Honestly, I've used other fabric glues that were terrible. Like, they just don't work. That was just so bizarre how some of them just don't work. But I need to find my lid for that. I'll try to find my lid. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna let it sit and dry for a while before I add the other pieces on. But I think it looks so pretty. What do you guys think? So this is relatively easy. Just adding the hot glue. Also at the end, I'm gonna use extra fabric to wrap around the ends, since I could have made this a little longer, but I had it cut already for the other headband. So, oh man, I didn't know you guys were still on. So here it is so far. Let me try it again. Okay, so here this one is so far. You're not gonna really see the underneath, but I am going to do it this way. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more of the pink fabric to wrap around the bottom. And then I'll add the label down here. And instead of using hot glue, because it didn't seem to really work, I might have used like a jewelry glue on this one. So I'm going to use a jewelry glue underneath, which is what I use for my charms anyways. And I think it'll hold really, really well. And it's flat. So if I try this on now, it's not as flat because I have the clips here, but it looks great. And I think it's gonna be beautiful. So let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna add the two pieces and show you at the end. And then, yeah, so that's all I did. I just wrapped the corner. I'm probably gonna do like a couple inches at the bottom, fold it in, and then wrap it around and use the jewelry glue again to close it. So we'll do that. This is the headband one. All right guys, so I'm back. I picked up my kids. They are home now. And this gave it time to dry. So they did dry. And like I said, I know I used a pink satin headband. That's the last one I had was in this color, because all the rest I have ready, I have made with charms for my website. So this is the only one I had, and I'm ordering more black ones because I actually reminded myself how much I like this style, and I can make more of these. And so even though it's pink and it's peeking out here, underneath you're not going to be able to see it at all because you're going to wear it on your head. But at the ends, I was originally going to put some, like, make binding out of this and make, you know, this go around the edge. That's option one. The other option I had is using like an actual piece of, like, usually I use a black or thicker fabric for this because I want it to be more durable. It's what goes behind the ear. So I'm thinking actually I might end up using this. Hold on, I'm gonna wrap it around so you guys can see before I do it. So you don't need to sew this on, you just need it big enough to cover the gap. So hold on, I need to make sure it's wide enough. Kind of hard to hold in the first place, but there it is. And I think it's like quite a good match. And I wouldn't have to use my mom's fabric just for that. And I think it looks good. So I think I'm going to do this route and close it up that way. So that's going to be my next move. I'm going to cut out the same amount on both ends and wrap it over. There will be a little bit of overlap, but I'll cut that off after. And I'm going to try it on. I'll try them both on again before we end this video. We're almost at the end. Okay, real quick. So I cut 2 1/4 inch of these. So this is what I use for my tote bag straps typically, but it's durable. But I'm gonna grab a lighter and basically burn off the ends so that they don't fray. I could also put fray check. Yeah, so these will fray if you just leave them like that, and I don't want it to look that way. You just take a little and put it against the edge. I'll give that a few minutes to dry and then attach it. So let's see how this looks in a few minutes. It says it takes doesn't say how long it takes to dry, but I'm gonna leave it for a few minutes and I'll come back and check. Okay, I came back on here to show you that I did the fray check on this one. Then I tried to pull it and it's still unraveled. So I'm not gonna use the fray check on this. I cut 2 other pieces and I went ahead and I took a handheld lighter and I just lightly went around the edges so that it kind of like will keep it from fraying. So there's those little pieces on top, but technically it's already locked up that way. Now I'm going to attach it. So I just had some yummy salsa. One of my really good friends, she makes and sells her own salsa, and I've been so addicted to it. It is so spicy, but quite literally one of the best salsas I've like ever had. So that is a big deal. So I think I won't stop eating it, but it does burn a little bit here and there.
Okay. Okay, so for this, I'm going to add glue at the end and then pin it with the fabric clamp so that it is held in place for a while, because I'm sure it's going to take a bit to stay there. And this will really test the durability of this glue in this whole process, because I've used it a lot of times for like little things, but never something that I wanted to make sure really held. So I'm really interested to see how this holds up. And I feel like it'll do good because it has worked for my other stuff really, really well. So like there, it's already held into place, but that will just keep it there a little bit longer. So that's what it looks like. So that's good. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. I also already added in my mom's label in memory of her name. The glue kind of went through a little bit. But I guess, you know, they're not like hand stitched labels, they're printed. So I know that the quality is not like perfect or anything, which is pretty normal. I actually want to get some labels printed for my business, and they're quite pricey. Now I could see why people continue to make them. They're almost $1 a piece, and that's a lot of money when you're trying to grow a business, you know. But these labels, I'm gonna try to do it the way I make these in memory of my mom labels. I'm gonna try, and what I'm doing is I'm just using the glue and trying to like spread it so that it is like fully covering the piece of fabric, and that all the way through to the end. But maybe I will do it the way I do my scrunchies so that it will actually be able to, I'm just cutting out this little extra piece. But sorry, I could sometimes do two things at once, but this is kind of a two-handed job. So I'm going to pull it tighter. Piece again. Forgot what I was saying. But oh yeah, I'm gonna try to make some more of her labels the way I make my normal labels, which is the one that I did this time was like more like an ink. The ink kind of seeped through onto the fabric and then you cut it, versus the way I do my labels, it's on a different type of fabric transfer. It's a sheet. Like once you print the sheet out, you separate the two sheets and then you iron the sheet onto fabric. So I was wondering like which one feels better, and to be honest, they both feel paper-like. Neither of them feel like just like fabric, and it kind of alters the feeling of the fabric a bit. So oh, this looks good. So I'm going to clip this side and let it set for a little bit, and I will come back and check it out. But I think so far it looks great. Yeah. Like I said, usually I use ribbon. I don't usually use, what is this called? I don't know why I can't think of it right now. I can't think of it. But yeah, so I did this. So I know I've been sharing a lot of this stuff about repurposing items for my mom, and for me it's been very healing and rewarding, but also I want to encourage anyone else if they're going through this. I haven't really seen a lot of videos share the ways that you can repurpose. Obviously it's not easy emotionally. When I finished the other scrunchie and tried it, the other headband, and I tried it on, I cried. When I made the scrunchies, I cried.
I'm sure when I make the bow tie and the bear, I'm gonna cry. So it's not a shock to me, but also like I am gonna break it up and add some other videos of things that I'm making and things that I do for my business. Like I said, just launched online in June, but I've been doing vendor events and in-person sales since about January. So I haven't been at this very long, and I was like very hesitant to launch online because it's like one of those oh, it's so pretty. I love it so much. It's one of those things that you kind of put off, you know, because you have like, oh my gosh, it's not perfect, it's not perfect, it's not perfect. And I finally, again, with that mindset of, if not now, when? It doesn't have to be perfect. And how will I ever learn if I never even try? So that's where I'm at. And yeah, I've been doing things outside of my norm, such as like I've been meeting with a writing group who, they don't write children's books, but they write like longer novels. Some of them are historical fiction, some of them are autobiographies, some of them are nonfiction and fiction. So there's and suspense, and like there's, you know, a lot of different genres represented, and I was able to connect with them, and I'm really excited because I will be doing a speaking engagement for them in a few months, and the school year is about to kick off. And I'm really excited to get back into some of those children's schools now that I have I have more books that are pending publishing, but I have 7 of my books here, and I'm able to get those and do author visits. So maybe I'll be sharing some side of that, or some side of my, I design custom paint kits, and yeah, so that's kind of what I mean by being like multi-passionate, is I feel like we all like to label ourselves. There's a lot of like, stay in your lane, you know, if you're this, you're this, if you're that, you're that. But I just feel like we're multiple things. We are definitely more than the one label we have. We're more than a mom. I know that I am a daughter, and my mom isn't here anymore, but I know that I'm more than a daughter. I know my mom would want more for me. I know that my kids want more for me, and they're proud of me. And just like them, I want them to be their own person. I want them to try different things and challenge themselves. Don't limit themselves. Don't say, I can't do something. And, you know, something being hard initially, I understand that it's normal. But actually pursuing something that's hard and going through those like, those like growing pains is one of those things that are hesitant for people to go through. And it's weird because I know it's like a up and a down, a yin and a yang. Sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. So it just really depends, and mindset is a big thing. And if you're a woman, hormones, emotions like play a big part into that. So when I do this, it really allows me to like feel the things I'm feeling. It really allows me to be present with those feelings, and I feel like I'm not burdened with a lot more of that emotion that I'm trying to just work past or ignore. And so I hope that in more ways than one, this will one day reach the right people, and it'll reach somebody who it resonates with, and that ultimately, you know, my mom's items not only have beauty and purpose for me and my family, but will one day have beauty and purpose for someone else watching, for others who are watching, for someone else who's grieving, for, I mean, maybe not even grieving, maybe just inspiration. I'm sure this is just a beautiful headband in general, which I haven't seen done quite often like this. And this way was a lot simpler than adding the casing, in my opinion, and adding that fusible interfacing makes it so that it bends, but it makes it firm. So I didn't need to do, you know, the casing or anything. So it worked out for me. And I will be writing an, what is that called? A pattern. I will be writing a pattern for both of these. And I also have, like I said in my other videos, I did the 4 different fabrics, or 4 different tones of fabric together as a memory scrunchie for my mom. And these are only 2, but they're just as beautiful and with the same aspect. So I guess I should let it dry a little bit longer and then I'll come back and try it on. I'm a handmade business. I make and enjoy making things from scratch. I love turning all this beautiful fabric into some beautiful products. I also make paint kits and just have a lot of fun creating. Recently, I have dived into a beautiful process of healing through repurposing my mom's clothing items. She passed away in October of last year, and of course I'm still experiencing loads of grief. Even in the process of making this, I have tears rolling down my eyes, but I'm filming it, I'm documenting it, it's on my YouTube. It is messy. Tonight I am posting the 2 headbands that I made from scratch, making up my own pattern, so you get to see the process of how I make my own pattern. And they're beautiful and handmade. Let's see if I could do this with one hand. Not too easy. I'm not just making them for myself. I have 3 kids. I make it for them, but I'm also making it for my family. So if you want to check it out, please do. But let me know what you guys think. It's made out of my mom's items and I love it. I just thought I would share it. I did shed a few tears. I'm not gonna lie. This video is going up tonight on my YouTube, and I know it's a lot longer because it is such an emotional process, and I knew it was gonna be, but I also find it so healing, so rewarding in the end, because it's beautiful. It's my mom. It reminds me of her. It feels like I'm near her. It feels like I'm with her. So anyways, I just wanted to share that.